Sergeant Arms, we call him. He has his posh ready told me. I think he's in for a surprise, really, so nobody's told him yet. We are getting ready to see the engines are there at the gateway. The music is almost ready. All we're missing is a certain person called Anthony Cruz. Bless him. I don't know where he is. Me or we need him. Policemen getting them all ready. Just lined up for the hour of 2 o'clock. We're trying to get the music ready. Ready? You're not ready yet, no, we're not ready. We're making Mr. Cool as well. Round parade. Sergeant Kirk up there, getting them into line, together with our chairman, Mr. Gunnar, walking across the front there, keeping all in order. I have to see so many people there. I've just had a beautiful prize, so I will smile here. Nice to see you. See you later. We have got our resident copper, our resident policeman. Sergeant Kirk of Warwick, and he's there somebody getting them all into line together with our chairman, Mr. Edward Gunnar, all there in the event. There we go. Getting a decent picture there. So, the highlight of the parade today, the grand parade around the arena, and of course, grand parade steam engines. All steam engines, we do everything in the arena. Takes a bit of doing, but a very splendid sight, of course. We always read out David Bradley's theme to the grand parade, doesn't it? It's a pleasure to do. I'm not qualified in that regard, but not too concerned about that. Although I hand him back to Mr. Coenig, can suitably regret, and he's got his lemon zero sugar drink.
That's it. all about your zero sugar there, David. Well, David mentioned just then our colleague and friend David Bradbury, who for 52 years was the voice of Shrewsbury Steam Rally, and David provided us with this wonderful poem that is a tribute to the steam era of the past and the steam folks who put these engines together in the preservation period. Now, very sadly, David lost his wife Dorothy of many years a couple of weeks ago, and as a rally field, a rally community and a club, we offer David and the family, Andrew, Elaine, Hannah and Emma, our deepest condolences and many thanks to the support that Dorothy gave us over many years. Those of you who knew or know David, I spoke to him last night on the phone for about half an hour, and he wished his very best wishes to be sent to everybody who knows him on the rally field. Unfortunately, health and Anno Domini means he can't join us and be with us today, but he's very much with us in spirit. So really nice to hear from David again.
Yes, I can speak with him as well. But many days in here and also with the cast of the earth. Just a big thank you to the fine nasty man from over there, because it's always gorgeous. Just a little message for leaving, you know. I see the chairman of the society, Mr. Grant, conversing with the ring manager. The ring manager is the leading man. So, leading man today on the ring.
I was going to say that there are hands being laid upon each other. Do you think they're praying for each other?
Well, they've obviously been praying for all of us. I thought I needed prayer.
everyone, and welcome to what we believe to be the 59th County of Salop Steam Rally here at Onslow Park in Shrewsbury. It's great to see so many people around the arena, and if you are in any stage wanting to see the Grand Parade, this is your time. Do come and see this absolutely fantastic spectacle of steam, something that is never anywhere else rivaled in the UK. There are dozens of rallies around England every weekend of the summer, but you will see nothing quite like what you do at Shrewsbury Steam Rally. And so we introduce to you this afternoon the Grand Parade of Steam Engines. great might, presents to us a wondrous sight of engines now resplendent made from years of harbouring in the shade. They came from yard and field or wood, and in their twilight silent stood. With rusting motion and boiler cold, it was for scrap that they were sold. Then in the summer's sweltering scorch, their end it was the burner's torch. But some from this grim fate were taken, the slumbering giants gently awaken. With lavish care from owners new, they are but now the chosen few that represent a lost great power, which we represent to you this hour. For these are the engines of an era long past, built by the men whose skills were to last. They made them strong to give of their best. In aging years they do not rest. They still drive on with fiery soul, and beating heart that scorns control. With burnished limbs of shimmering steel, and throb and pulse of circling wheel. With shining paint and polished brass, all other machines they did surpass. But for all this grace and beauty, they were made for man's duty. Hauling with ease the team's former loads, up and down the country's roads. Others were the sons of soil, from ploughing to threshing they eased the toil. Then came the showman, with engines so grand, each thought his the best in the land. Yet with brass and electric light, there came the strength to move the sight. This was part of their calling to man. But what of the homes where they began? Charles Borrell of Thetford, the true Norfolk breed, whilst Ransoms and Garretts were Suffolk seed. Next came Lincoln, its four famous sons of Roby, Clayton, Foster and Rustons. Marshals of Gainsborough in that same shire, they made engines for all to admire. Then in Cheshire, the land of salt, foams were built with never a fault. But with pride, the county of Surrey made their sentinels go with a gallop. Further north, in the city of Leeds, Fowler and McLaren's sufficed the needs. From the Garden of England, a prancing horse, Avon and Porter ran the course. Wallace and Stevens with sprightly 5-ton, Taskers nearby would give it a run. These are a few of the famous breeds, all working the purpose of man's needs. And now to you this hour we bring these engines for their praise to sing. With shrieking whistle and vapour cloud, their aim is now to please the crowd. So let us salute these machines from the past, built by the men whose skill was to last. They made them strong to give of their best. In aging years, they do not rest. Well, folks, we see a truly immense and wondrous selection of steam engines coming into the arena this afternoon. We have over 90 engines arranged in this field coming in as we speak. We have until 2:45 to show them to you, and we don't have time to talk about them all. But if we were looking at the story of the steam engine, we begin back in the 18th century, where steam-powered steam engines were made of such a size that you would have to build them in a house to fit their massive size. But our man in Cornwall, Richard Trevithick, produced an engine called the high-pressure engine, where he created high-pressure, strong steam, which terrified Abraham Darby and said, go away and do something else. And so Richard Trevithick took his new technology of strong steam to South Wales, and he created not only the first railway engine, the first steam locomotive to run on rails, but he made road carriages. And from Trevithick's road carriage of 1801, the Puffing Devil of 1803, which terrified the streets of Camborne and made sure that 200 years later, Trevithick Day is now an event in the Cornish calendar. Richard Trevithick miniaturising steam power and making it accessible laid the seeds for steam power as you see it around this arena today, with the exception of the Greaves motor roller passing the commentary box now. But throughout the 19th century, steam was harnessed and made mobile and compacted, and as the roads improved, these engines became commonplace not only on farm and field, but on the highways. Steam haulage, steam sawing, steam thrashing, steam contracting. If you couldn't afford to buy an engine, then you paid somebody who already had one or had a fleet of engines. And with that, then indeed the roads to get better, and portable steam engines were made into self-moving engines, which then led towards the creation of the steamroller. The steamroller improved the road network, and we have examples of all of these. But as I say, the progenitor of it is perhaps the portable engine, and unfortunately, portable engines, they are not self-moving, so they have to sit out the Grand Parade. But there are two on the engine line, little Ruston from the Bradbury family, and Davy Paxman from the Allisons and Sue Ogden. And those engines were towed around by horses, heavy horses, as we saw this morning, and eventually it only took a length of time before they were able to move themselves, initially steered by, again, a team of horses in front, and then latterly the steering themselves added, and that then on the traction engine, the steam wagon, and eventually the steam tractor, because as the laws changed, these engines no longer had to have a man preceding them with a red flag, and they were able to be made smaller, more compact, and they could be faster as well. No longer needing the man with the red flag. The repealing of the Red Flag Act meant not only the growth of motor car, but the light steam tractor and the steam lorry. You'll also see steam ploughing engines with the drum underneath the boiler, which enabled them to pull the plough between them across either side of the field. You can't really directly plough the field with a heavy steam engine, so they winched the plough backwards and forwards between them. And you can see in our working field examples of steam cultivation. The steam lorry grew from those motor tractors. The motor tractors, the steam tractors, could tow a trailer behind them, but actually, if you can make the thing carry its own payload, then that's far more acceptable and far more easily manoeuvrable. And so Foden's and Sentinel made the market their own. Other manufacturers did make wagons, but you see the majority on the field today are Foden and Sentinel. Sentinel main down the road, and Sentinel steam wagons were spelt with 2 G's, Wagagun. And it's always a good show of Sentinels this year, every year at Shrewsbury Rally. Unfortunately, legislation put the majority of steam wagons and steam lorries off the road. In the 1930s, there was a thing called the Salter Report, which brought in a lot of punitive legislation. And you see, the engines that you see are very fortunate to survive. Other examples of the road engine, you saw leading the parade this afternoon, the Showman's road locomotive. Now, the Showman's engine not only pulled the rides between the fairs, but it has an electric dynamo fitted to the front of it, which enabled it to provide the electricity for lighting the fair and providing power for those new rides which were driven by electric motors. So the Showman's engine is a mobile generator. But that's reducing them to quite a menial level, really. At the end of the day, these are all pieces of machinery and pieces of plant. We go quite gooey about them, we get nostalgic about them, but at the end of the day, they were machines built to do a job. And whilst they're all steam powered and they're all steam engines, they have very many different facets. So even the steamrollers, there are different examples, different layouts of cylinder, different weights, different purposes. And so what I'm going to do this afternoon, with so many engines to talk about, is I'm actually going to walk around the outside of the arena, because here I'm sitting in the commentary box. I can't see what engines there are on the other side of the arena. So I'm going to walk around each side of the arena and describe what we're looking at, and occasionally point out other ones in the middle that we may or may not be aware of. And hopefully then we can all start to have a look and see the different types of machine and the different purposes that they were built for, and do have a chat with their owners and their crews. Each of these engines has a story to tell. Each of their owners and drivers have stories to tell. Very human stories of family, of sacrifice, of near bankruptcy sometimes, and above all camaraderie and friendship, because it's an amazing hobby that we have in the steam world. An example it can transcend for decades. Mike Salt, whose little roller pepper pot is in the arena. That's the engine with a slopey boiler at 45-degree angle. Pepper pot, Mike has now owned that engine for 50 years. He has brought it to every Shrewsbury rally bar a couple, and he appeared in 1973 at the Bishop's Castle rally. It's called Pepper Pot because that's a pun on his name, Mike Salt. It came to me via Cyril Wilde of Dorrington, and Wilde's plant hire, but it's an engine that started its life in Cumbria. And it's just another example. Mike's family have known that engine throughout their lives, and we've enjoyed his friendship and exhibiting of it throughout the years here at Onslow, and before that at Shrewsbury, at Bishop's Castle, before that, and Walker Park. But I'm going to take the radio mic, and don't worry, Mr. Cooper, I'm not going to come and talk to you personally, but I am going to take a walk around so that we can describe what we're seeing a little bit more fully, because I've now got a big Fowler Road engine from my neck of the woods in County Durham sitting in front of me. And Brian, whilst I love you very much, I'm going to go and talk about somebody else for a bit.
Thank you, Anthony. Well,
Beautifully presented Wallace and Stevens agricultural engine. I'm just going to pass my friend here with his greens roller. We will try and work out earlier how to fit a diesel roller into any of the parades. Would it fit with the tractors? Would it fit with the steam engines? And we said, well, actually, yes, it would. And what you have between myself, where the diesel roller is the light green roller, and the steam roller in front of me, is a really good example of how technology was transferred. So we start with the steam roller, which belongs to Mr. Ian Cooper, who's hiding on the other side because he doesn't want to talk to me, and he's frightened I'll talk to him. But then a diesel road roller from the 1950s, and you can see, apart from the technology of the diesel engine and the steam engine, the layout is exactly the same. It's a little bit smaller, but actually these type of machines would have worked alongside each other. That's very much smaller for patching. This would have been working on heavier road compacting and all that. You'll see a lot of the engines are beautifully shiny, very well polished. Ian Cooper presents this engine, which worked for Staffordshire County Council until the 1960s, very much as a working engine would have been. It's clean, the brass is polished, but it's not absolutely immaculate with shiny paintwork, etc. But it goes everywhere on the road. Ian keeps it not far from here, but he drives everywhere on the road with it. And another engine that drives everywhere on the road, and my niece Neris is waving and saying hello. This belongs to my brother-in-law, Mr. Hen Jones of Market Drayton. And this is a steam tractor, a Marshall steam tractor. It's painted blue, which is a bit different, but that was one of Marshall's factory colours. And this, in essence, is the equivalent of a steam Ford Transit van. Other types of vehicle are available, but this engine would have been used for haulage of removal vans, of timber, all sorts. It's fitted with a winch, so it's able to pull things around, pull things from a sort of static point of view and be a source of power as well. It's had a very varied career, this engine. It's been in the ownership of a showman, so it has been a showman's engine. It's also spent time as a steamroller, but Hen and the family currently present it as a steam tractor. It's really rather lovely. Thank you. Sticking his tongue out at me. So, if you're right in front of me, I was talking to you earlier about Mike Salt and his 50 years support of the attending at the rally. This is proper block gear with the sloping boiler. Another engine made by Wallace and Stevens, and the boiler is that way around so that it could be burn inferior fuel. We hear a lot about the challenges of fuel for engines these days, and that is no exception. In between, you can see a Foden steam lorry there, alongside a very large and very beautiful Fowler road locomotive. So we talked about light haulage with the steam tractor. We can talk about fast light haulage with the steam lorry, but the Fowler road locomotive of Alex Sharphouse, which is a rebuild of a very famous engine called Talisman, that would have pulled the heaviest loads, locomotives, boilers, girders, and all sorts. And the company that it worked for, Normandy Box, they became part of Pickford's, and most of you will have heard, or many of you will have heard of Pickford's, the removal people. My apologies to the engines I'm not managing to talk about, but behind me is the Milbank family with their rather nice coral, soprano, presented in showman's form. So we said earlier about showman's engines having the ability to light and drive the fare, and whilst it's a traction engine under here, the dynamo sets it aside, so it's able to belt up to this dynamo, drive that, and provide electric power for all those rides out there. So do look out for this engine when it's parked up. Have a chat to Tiffany and the family and speak to them about the engine, because it really is rather nicely presented, and they'll explain to you exactly what it does. And you can see showman's engines are really rather special. Whilst I say they're not a piece of kit, as my mate from Yorkshire would say, it's still very beautifully turned out. There's a lot of brass, there's a lot of copper. It must be a nuisance to clean, but they love it nonetheless. But a real contrast is another gorgeous engine, but renowned now. As a teenager, a 12-year-old, this was one of my favourites because I like blue engines. That's very base, isn't it, talking about colours, but this is perhaps one of the finest road showman's engines in existence. It's shown extensively all around Europe by the Howard family who own it, but it's blue. Why is it blue? It's blue because when it was ordered by John Murphy of South Shields up in North East, Fowlers were late to an undercoat, and they stayed in the blue. Has my battery run out? No, it hasn't. I'm just worried about my battery on this black high screen. But beautifully presented, always works hard on the fare, but you can see it's no frills. It's got none of the twisted brass that you have on soprano, but it's still there, does a job of work, and you'll see that working the fare again later. In front of me, as I walk down this side of the arena, up towards the food stands, in case you're wondering where the heck I am, we have the Evans family and Philadelphia, which is a 5-horse, I think, Thorol showman's engine, road locomotive. They all have different styles and different nominations of power, and nominal horsepower is something I won't go into today unless you're very good with maths, but it enables you, when you're selling an engine, to say, I need a 5-horse engine, I need an 8-horse engine to do that sort of work. And as I walk past the middle of the arena, you can see this wonderful array of engines, some of those up the middle, more rollers coming down, and then the steam tractor on the left, the Fowler steam tractor, and then Will Woodward with his McLaren road locomotive, Captain Scott, very well known on the Midlands rallying circuit. And on the right, the brown Fowler road locomotive of Len Crane, or the late Len Crane and family, and again a stalwart of our show, worked in a boiler works in Wolverhampton, and is presented in the Crane form. It's quite nice really that the Crane family had a Crane engine, and if you're into these things, the engine still has its original copper firebox, which is really quite a feat. There's something to that. So folks, as I'm halfway around the arena, just to warn you, if you have dogs or children or have slight sensory needs yourself,
Excuse me,
we're about to...
we need to call first aid for something that's fainted by the gallopers in the fairground. First aid men, restaurant, whatever you are, could you proceed to the front there, apply to the gallopers, so they just fainted. Okay? Thank you. I'll be right here in a minute, or somebody come and tell me this is all sorted. Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you, David. So if anybody has any sensory challenges or needs or dogs or anything, do please cover your ears because we're about to let the rest of Shropshire know that we're here. So I think there's parking the engine up and Edward will make sure that we're ready when we are. Are you ready? So folks on the engines, if you're ready then to let Shropshire know exactly what 90 engines in a field sounds like. The count of 3, if you're ready with whistles please. 1, 2, 3. That steam siren is the sound I grew up to as that engine echoing around the ring road in Birmingham, the old Birmingham Science Museum. It's an amazing thing to hear. But as I walk down the side, we're passing another Fowler Showman's engine from Mike Priest, a glorious evening star. I have a thing about Fowlers, so perhaps it's a good job that there are 2 in succession, with Tom French and Yorkshire Bell behind. And also, a really different engine, the Steve Sapper, from our secretary Maggie Asprey and family. This is a ploughing engine. It has the big drum underneath the boiler for lighting the plough backwards and forwards. But it's called the steam sapper. As you see from the roof, it belonged at one point, it was restored by the 45th Company of Royal Engineers, and it spent time in Germany working for the Ottermeyer family. So an engine with a fascinating story. Another one, again a stalwart of Salop Rallies, Mr. Steve Mills and family with Lady Hesketh, an engine that I used to do with or help with and annoy Steve on a regular basis coming to the rally. Believe it or not, you can drive a local engine like Foremost behind him on a car licence, but you need a Group G licence to drive the steamroller. And in April 1999, Andrew Bradbury, Ken and Doug Mills and myself all did our steamroller driving tests around Ellesmere on this very machine. So an experience very different, but this is what's called a convertible. Like Haird's engine, it can spend time as both a steamroller and a tractor. So do have a look at it. From the Sublime top doing it, because Jim will fall out with me, but the smallest steamroller in the world, Old Butty, 1-ton engine made by Arthur Troxler and Holford in Gloucestershire for a very specific purpose. Lovely little engine. Contrasted with Joe Laura Walker with the most gorgeous Fowler, which I shall pass by because I'm very tempted to jump on it. But Tom Atwood is a lovely Isle of Man folk steam lorry, so it's a rather different contrast, different stories. This engine, the boiler of it, is alleged to have spent time at the bottom of the harbour of Douglas in the Isle of Man as an anchor, and now see the wonderful restoration job that's taken place with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Back to the traditional, the various different iterations of the agricultural traction engine, from the Fosters to the Fowler, single cylinder to what's called a compound twin cylinder with the 2 cylinders at the top. We do a tug of war with you later, mate. Lovely job. There goes a Foster Fowler with a Foden steam bus of Alan behind it. That engine took my sister and brother-in-law from their wedding to their wedding reception, which was a wonderful day in November a long time ago. It got very wet, very cold. Went down to Winchford, Graham Townshend steamroller, and then Mr. Stuart Tomlinson with a blue fowler. I'm told blue fowlers pull harder, is that right? Yeah, he's nodding at me there. The Brigazzi family, Jonathan there with the Bankside Dairies, Bankside Express, and various iterations on the steam tractor, the Samson the Boyle there, the Goddard family, and Sprig, Foster seat. Now, if you're into your military history, you'll see on the bottom end of the square box on that ring there is a tank. That's because in the First War, Foster's made the first motorised tanks. You've heard of Matilda and Flirt and all of those. And then the engines that were made after the conflict, as you see also with Chris Aronsmith's Foster tractor here right now, they have the tank on the emblem at the bottom. Thank you, Mr. Aronson. An engine that travels everywhere on the road and is really rather beautifully turned out as a late 1930s steam tractor would be. You see it's got mud guards and something very different indeed. The Sentinel S4 behind it, Paul Massey and team. Again, the final flowering of the steam engine, it's almost like a diesel road lorry with a boiler at the front, but you see the engine underneath running to a prop shaft on the back wheel, and that was designed to try and take away the competition of the diesel lorry. And then possibly the final flowering of the steamroller as well. What is the steam advance? It's got quite a turn speed. It doesn't have a big flywheel like all these other engines. It's what's called a duplex. So it sounds like the railway effect jumping along. That means it can roll, it's riverless, it can roll on asphalt and tarmac so that it doesn't sink in. It's lethal to the cars behind you. You really don't want to unhinge somebody. And I've been passed by a Ruston traction engine in the same condition, the paintwork that it was exhibited back in the 60s. Beautiful example of conservation. These engines didn't always look shiny and lovely. This is how to get an engine working, but perfectly safe, but keep it looking as it would have done. And then Mr. Metcalf with the Fowler tractor. We've had lots of different examples of tractors, which is really quite nice, and the Fowlers are perhaps the nicest of the breed. Well, I would say that, wouldn't I? And the Steamroller Survivor in the UK, an interesting selection of engines here, in that that's a Fowler steamroller on the inside Survivor. This engine of Phil Lowe, Oriana, spent some of its life as a steamroller. It's currently presented in tractor form. But you can see they're very, very similar in terms of the cylinders and the flywheel and all the mechanics of it. Danny David with an Herman Koenig roller called Onslow, which I knew in County Durham 20 years ago. Very nicely presented. Again, spent some of its life as a roller, and in the 70s had pneumatic tyres on it, which was an incredible thing to see. Leaving the arena is Ken Mills with Nippon Kid, a very superb restoration only finished last year. And then passing me Emma from the Henton family of Nothless. Sorry, no, not just a Twycross, get it right. And that engine, you've seen Lady Hesketh in roller form. Emma spent time as a roller as well, so he's also a convertible engine. And Phil Moody from Whitley Bay, next to me with a Roby tandem steam roller. So again, it's got a twin high pressure cylinders on the boiler, and it's, instead of being what we call a 3-point roller with wheels on each side, you can see it's one at the front and one at the back. Again, another example of trying the last flowering of the steam engine. More steam tractors coming round. The Garrett, led by the Garrett Queen Mary, owned by David Bosworth, an engine which began its life at Stourbridge and is back in the Midlands now, presented very much as it was when it was in commercial use. And recently they've taken it back to Stourbridge a couple of times to visit where it operated. I'm just going to cross over and make sure Jez doesn't run me over for being rude about his engine, which I would never be rude about my engine. And as we come round to the top end of the arena, more examples of the rollers. There's Mike Salt again, Mike on the wheel of his engine. As I say, a stalwart of 50 years for this show, just showing how people enjoy coming here and love supporting this event. But some of these rollers, we've got two examples of Fowler over there. And, so we've got Ben Roberts and Jeannie Walker with the ex-West Riding Yorkshire steamroller. Next to them is young Vicky Black and their sons. There's both single-cylinder engines, but you see the roofs are different. So one has what's called a half cap, it only comes partway along the engine. The other one has a three-quarter canopy. All different facets of it, different ways of doing the job. In front of them, Greg Pearson's compound Aveling steamroller. Avelings make more steamrollers than anybody else. A lot of engines made for home use, but also for export around the world. And a very nicely presented engine, which is quite typical of hundreds, if not thousands. Every district council, every borough council had one, county council had fleets of them, and there were contractors who had a load as well. From an engine that there were quite a number of to one that there were very few survivors is Ironside, by the Asprey family. Maggie, our secretary, and the family support the rally hugely throughout the year, especially the setup of this, so it's nice that they can enjoy their engines here as well. And Ironside is a Clayton and Shuffle, that's another of the Lincoln manufacturers. Slightly different, there's only about, I think, 6 or so of those in existence, but it's just showing a different example of the breed of the steamroller. Just behind those of us that are standing on this side of the arena by the commentary box, we've got examples of showman's engines doing the job they were built for that haven't come and joined the parade. So do go and have a look at them. Follow the cables going down and see what rides they're powering. Have a look at the ammeters and see how much power they're pumping into the rides that they're working. But also have a look at Ashley's Golden Gallopers, Jack Schofield and his wife Judith. Long supported this rally, but again, a steam engine drives the middle of that ride. Go and have a go, and as he goes round, if you're not getting dizzy, have a look at the centre engine, because that is perhaps one of the hardest working engines of the show. But we can't carry on this without looking at more Sentinels from Shrewsbury. We looked at an S-type on the other side, the one with Paul Massey, and you'll see the black tarmac Sentinel there from Peter Walker. S-type, S6, it's 6 wheels, but in front of us is a standard, presented in the livery of Dick Woolley, R.F. Woolley of Bucknell, who was a very well-known contractor for dredging, but also road making, road rolling, right into the 1967. Dick Woolley was using a pair of ploughing engines in Wales, dredging for the Nathales estate around 1978. So it shows how steam engines continue throughout the decade. There is the really rather magnificent S6 of Peter Walker and family, always beautifully presented, quite often on the road, and really goes very, very well indeed. It always brings a smile to our face to see. And behind him is another of the Aveling breed, the compound roller of John Statham and family, and you can see there that he's got a half cab on it, but John's also done something that is still taking off amongst steamroller owners, or not, depending on how you feel to do these things, and it's on rubber tyres on the rolls, and that enables the engine to have a lot more comfortable ride, because our modern tarmac roads are a lot harder than they were when they were water-bound roads when these engines were new, and it also helps the cruise backbone survive a little bit better. It's not quite so hard. It does mean that you're not so easy to roll roads, compact stone, but actually many rollers aren't used for that anymore. Looking across the arena, we can also see Mark Stafford's Sentinel S, or from Horton-le-Spring, County Durham, local engine for us, with John Mills on the top of the engine. Yes, John, I'm talking about you. And John has his own YouTube channel, which I suspect he's gathering film for now. And always nice to see. And I can see there's things going on around the arena. Look out for people with push bikes. and they have things in their hands, and I think they're misbehaving. But, I think we'll just keep an eye out for some of those. But, if we look across the arena, I'll just get out of the way of this well-known top of the arena. He's now putting faces at me. I'm back again around the top of the arena because those engines move around. So there's Cornwood Park from Market Drayton with an enabling roller. And then in the grey, coming towards the middle of the arena, is Scott Lewis from Shropshire with his Tasker tractor. Another haulage engine presented in the grey livery. Very different. You see a lot of engines that are red, black, green, some blue ones, but not many that are different. So Alex Sharphouse's Talisman here in the grey is presented in what would have been called works colours. When the engines were new, quite often they have a photograph, their official photograph taken in front of the works, and the grey photographed all the details much better than any of the colours. And Alex has chosen to present Talisman as a fairly recent rebuild overhaul in that grey condition, which is really rather smashing. Listen to it. You think steam engines, the Sentinel and the Fowler, other than a slight bit of exhaust, you hardly know they're steam engines. There's no peaks anywhere from them, and they just glide around in silence. I think the Sentinels are really quite splendid from that extent. Talking about colours, we also have the S4, the Castle Firebrick in the middle, in the orange, which is very distinctive and makes these things stand out. So you're going to the era of where people present their vehicles not only as a thing for a job, but as a mobile advert for their business. And so elsewhere, I don't know whether they've made it into the arena today, but you'll see another Sentinel lorry presented in the colours of Price's Bread, and that's light, almost like a cream colour, with maroon mudguards. Prices were the equivalent of Greg's today. So household names used steam. These were everyday machines to do an everyday job, but of course now in 2023 they are exceptional. Each of these has stories behind them. Alex first Talisman to this show about 10 years ago as a set of wheels and a smoke box, and you'll see his next project is over on the steam line. It's to recreate another of these road locomotives called Jigs. Do go and have a look at it and see how far he's come, because he brought Talisman in when it was fewer pieces than Jigs is now, and this is the result that we see in front of us. The little Fowler T3 steamroller presented there in the colours of Samuel Jackson and Sons of Worcester Crew. A lot of these, what I said earlier, were tractors. People didn't necessarily have the wherewithal to buy an engine that would last them all year, so they hired somebody in for a contract. That's exactly what Jackson did with that engine. That's also on rubber tyres, makes it a lot quieter as well. Coming back down the middle, as these engines all move around, I just realised I've got in everybody's moving, so please don't take them too much. But you can see the tractors heading off down it. You can see that even though they're quite congested, they've got quite speed. I think we're doing quite well getting everybody out at the moment. And then at this corner near the Valley Shop, we now have Stuart Phillips with another variation on the traction engine. This is a Marshall compound. Marshalls were in Gainsborough in Lincolnshire, and they remained in existence well into the 1980s. So whilst Marshall made steam engines for agricultural use, they continued into the 80s and made tractors. If you follow the fortunes of the labor crew, the dumping crew, and Marshall became part of that, and this is what's going to get. And there's Tom Atwood with the Hermann Koenig, and Bosworth with his garage. Some of you that were around the rally scene may remember this garage back in the 70s, 80s. Bright red with yellow wheels called Anchor. I think it's safe to say it looks a lot better now. But one of the joys, we looked at the miniature engines this morning. We said about new builds and being able to recreate engines that have long gone. This Foster coming towards us is a Foster engine. You can tell by the tank on the bottom of the smoke box ring, but it's a fairly recent build. I think it was constructed in 2016. But an example of an engine that the owner couldn't buy, so it's been built, and it still does the job just as its forebears would have done. Across the border from Shropshire over into Cheshire, you can see the Foden steam lorries. Foden's of Sandbach, a very well-known name. But Foden's first off made, well not first off, but alongside the steam lorries, they also entered the market building road locomotives and traction engines. And King George V is an example of one of their agricultural engines. It's a compound, again it has the twin cylinders, one on either side, but there aren't as many of these as there are Foden steam lorries in existence. So it's really rather special to see one. But look at the height of those back wheels against me. They're very high-stepping engines, Fodens. Following on by parade of steam tractors, the Laurel Gold Medal, which refers to the RAC trials of 1907, where they were trying out different types of steam engine, steam road tractor, and the Laurel won the gold medal. But as somebody who has an Abeling and Porter steamroller, I have to say I'd rather take an Abeling tractor over a Laurel, but steam is always a little bit partisan. Everybody has their favourites, but English Princess has presented us to us very much again, physically as she was 20, 30 years ago. It's been fully restored mechanically and boiler-wise, but again, has that lived-in look, which is really rather fun. Then following on behind that is Oberon, with Ryan Allison at the helm. That makes it sound like something else than Iron Maiden, doesn't it? The film, but so maybe the Iron Maiden. No, maybe not. Funny, isn't it? Brian is a very well-known steam engineer in the UK, and he and Sue, his partner, have a business, Allison Steam, is it? Allison Engineering and Steam Supplies. So do go and have a chat if you're thinking of restoring an engine or are restoring an engine. Brian and Sue will not only quote you for doing the work to the engine, but they'll provide you with all the consumables you might need, specialist tools, planes, line the door joints, and he's giving me money. Look at this. It's on elastic, isn't it, that one? But do go and have a chat, because if you've ever considered the practicality and the reality of getting involved with steam restoration, Brian has been there, done it, and he's even wearing the t-shirt. So do go and have a chat with Brian and Sue, and they'll look after everything that you need. Here's another Foster, a bit earlier than Chris Arrowsmith's, like the period of Ken Mills's, and it is a Wellington tractor, but it's the earlier example the Buckyards on it, but it's really nicely presented, very pretty little engine, and if I can't have anything, I'd probably have one of these. And then right at the end of this side, down at the bottom, you're reading next to the ice train van, whether that's strategically parked or not, I don't know, and a pair of train engines. So there's Tom, our engine steward, engine secretary, the regulator of neck trains, Fowler Loco, which was formerly in the ownership of a Boilermakers in Wolverhampton, John Thompson, and presented with their plate on the side. The Toms just bought a Scannell that was also in the ownership of John Thompson, and the owner gave him the plate from the factory as well. So do go and have a chat with him later, because Thompson's Boilermakers in the West Midlands, well, Warwickshire, Staffordshire, until Wolverhampton, until the late 60s. And following on from it is perhaps the other really big engine on the field, which is Duke of York. It's Edwards box, Master Road Services. It's a Fowler crane engine, road locomotive, so it can operate as both. I've seen this this engine pulling great loads of exhaust and steam there, with the gym on, also with it off, but it's very versatile. Matt was driving it, and the team who looked after it do a lot of working demonstrations. You may see this engine at Beamish Museum, you may see it at the Country Museum, you'll see it at steam events all over the country, but they're not afraid to do a job of work with it. They pull railway engines around Cumbria and the Isle of Man with it. There's no finer interpretation of the steam engine than seeing an engine doing the job that it was made for, which is one of the things they're very keen to do with the Duke of York. Talking of steam restoration, while this is an inspiration to us all, if you want to get involved with supporting the steam and preservation world, we have our restoration marquee at the top of the arena, the little white tent in the corner to which I'm walking up towards, which has not only the national body, the National Traction Engine Trust, but also has stands from the Road Locomotive Society who look into the history of engines and the presentation of them and records and photographs, but also the Road Roller Association, who for people like me, they look after the interests of road rollers, whether that's steam or diesel, as our friend with the green griffin, Mr. Squash, would testify. And also we have the Fairground History Society, Fairground Heritage Society, the Steam Apprentice Club, which is how, as young people, you can get involved with steam engines. Yesterday we hosted the Steam Apprentice Club driving day, where young folks have the opportunity to learn how to drive a steam engine and run it around this arena here. And it's, to be honest, it's something how I and many others started. We wanted to get involved, we didn't know how. We joined the Steam Apprentice Club and they made it possible for us, which was wonderful. And now I'm walking around the field in Shropshire talking rubbish about them. But it's marvellous and it's great to have the Steam Apprentice Club here. They are running a thing called Formula Mammoth. If you know them, toy Mammoth steam engines, they do time trials with those against the clock, and it's really nice to have those here. Should your leanings be more towards the Shrewsbury breed, back to the Sentinels, we also have the Sentinel Drivers Club a little bit further on the engine line, and the Sentinel Drivers Club support people who own, drive, operate, or just are enthusiastic fans of the Sentinel breed. They're marvellous things. I'm seeing you around here with this bike a little bit too much. Do you know what you're doing with that pistol? That's what worries me.
Yeah. Push on busy elsewhere. It's really annoying. it's really annoying.
But there we are, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, everybody. A pageant of steam which you will not see anywhere else in the Midlands. You may not see it anywhere else in the UK. There are dozens of steam rallies around the UK. There are dozens of steam clubs, and of course today is brought to you by the County of Salem Steam Engine Society. And I would encourage you, if you are interested in this area, then do please visit the County of Salem stand at the end of the arena. They will sell you one of these natty polo shirts, or a hat, or a rally programme, or all sorts of merchandise, or even sign you up as a member. So I live in County Durham, but I have joined the County of Salem Steam Society because I love what goes on here, and it's just nice to be part of that community. But steam clubs exist all over the country, and it is just marvellous that we can still enjoy the spectacle of these fine machines. Some of them well over, or most of them well over a century since they were built. And actually, the society has now been in existence for over 60 years. We had a smashing road run a couple of years ago, and I think if people are worried about the future of the heritage movement, then all they need to do is see what surrounds us today, with families and friends enjoying nearly 100 steam engines in a field in Shropshire, and actually you know you're in England while this sort of thing still goes on. Steam on the road has various other facets as well. We haven't seen the steam cars in the arena yet, but in the corner of the steam line you will see a selection of Stanley steam cars. That's very different in terms of the technology used. These are all what you might call external combustion steam. There's a fire outside in the boiler going through tubes. A steam car is a very different kettle of fish. The power unit is still a steam engine, but the method of generating steam is very different. I am still getting worried about you with that bike. You're going to be somewhere else? No, that's worrying me. But the steam car had a flowering in the UK in the first 20 to 30 years of the 20th century, but unfortunately didn't really take off after the 1930s. And UK-made steam cars are quite unusual. Most of them were white. I'm being told there's a policeman over here, a gentleman of law, and he's pointing something to me. Do we have a problem?
Yeah. I was really good advice. I was on the first thing.
Finally.
It's bigger than the other ones.
God bless you, Audrey.
He's going to get so much better. Shall we go? He doesn't seem to be doing any problems to me. He's quite innocent. Do you think we should go and have a word?
Tony, please.
Let's go and have a look. Let's go and see what he's doing. Want to work with you? No? Now, this gentleman says to me that you're not behaving.
I don't think anything would be coming out here.
The way you're going,
It'd be nice to see
older cousin called the Bridge of the Beast, for which my skill was confiscated. You know well become all of this. Last and final warning.
Understood. Right, I think that's all right then, isn't it? Yeah. On your way, chap. Go on. We'll see you. Go and join your section. Miscreants. Do you reckon that's all right?
Okay.
Let's see where he goes. He's not in any hurry to go, is he? He's not in any hurry at all. Yeah, he hasn't come round the other side of that steamboat yet. I'm just going to go and check and see what he's up to. Have any of you seen a bloke on a boat? You! Is he? Where's my police friend? He's here! Shall I try and get him off the site? Tell you what, I'll see if I think I need to have your bike. Yes, I do. I think we need to have your bike. And I think what we're going to do is, because the steamroller is a big thing, it's not going to go anywhere. I think we'll leave your bike just leaned up against this engine here, all right? And where is it? We're going to make sure it leans nice and safely. There, that'll do. So, I think I've made a citizen's arrest. I think you better come. Are you supposed to wear a school cap or something? Well, this is a citizen's arrest, Mr. Plot, sir. I've got this gentleman here. Do you think we should encourage him to go and sit in the corner and think about what he's done? Right.
Yeah, go on, then let's go.
Yeah, he says he's going to trip over your shoelaces as well. No! Hey, you! It's got no water in it. He gives me one of these. It's got no water in it. Oh, no. Well, I'm not entirely sure I can make a citizen's arrest with an empty water pistol. But, well, this is interesting. We got penguins and all sorts here. Trying to take pictures and stuff. Oh dear. Well, this is rather interfering with our plans a little bit, isn't it? Do you think we should wait. I'll have a word with this policeman. Shall we see, you want your bike back? Yes. I don't know, you leave it there? No, because we're going to check with the policeman that you can have your bike back. Hang on. Right, where is he? This young gentleman here says he wants his bike back. Even the steamroller driver says you're a troublemaker. He says he don't give a fuck. With your nan, I know where you live. Did he squirt you, Ian? Did he squirt you? He squirted everyone. No, I think, well, I think you need to clear off. We're going to have a word with this young man here. I'd like you to go about your lawful business, please. So, yeah, we'll have a little word. And, hang on, it's your bike! What are you doing here? Oh! Where's it gone? Well, if you know anything about steamrollers, ladies and gents, they have a thing called a scarifier fitted. I think this one's got an extra one fitted by Raleigh. But there we are. That's a little bit of the power of steam and what a steamroller can actually do. So, yeah, we're now having the official mugshot taken. Forget Donald Trump. This is mugshots, and yeah, I think it's time for the North. And we'll go and tell Mr. Cooper to remove the bit underneath his engine. Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of fun, but all part of the spectacle of the power of steam. And at some point we're going to remove the... That'll do! Oh, he's doing the job properly now. We've got another bike to get off this week. Oh, here he goes again. Anybody know any terms of recycling there? He's got it stuck.
They've raised $20 million in 5 days of $12 million just what hope is up in the world?
I think we better get that.
They selected again.
Yeah.
Well, you want your bike back? I've got to get it out of the ground first. Right, the wheel might go round a bit.
Well, they seem to understand how to use the free market website better than the free market.
Yes, it's already cockeyed. Something using the free market for
Anybody want a souvenir of a squash bike? Make a nice paperweight for somebody. So there we are, everybody. The fantastic annual display of steam engines. Do please go and have a chat to their owners and their crews. Thank you, officer, for upholding the law. But do have a chat with everyone. Do enjoy these engines close to, now that you've seen them in action. Go and experience them close up. And thank you to all the owners, crews, and the folks who enabled them to be here this afternoon.
Give me a minute today, then you run along. Just like one of the little persons that made a film, honestly. Never get in there.